I was at a work drinks last night, so not only am I a little bit hungover, I yapped for about 5 hours, so my voice is a little raspy, but here we are. Recently, the New York Times released their 100 best books of the 21st century. And like any normal person, I went to the list to see which books I knew. And I'm not gonna lie, there were a lot of books on there that I had never heard of, which I hope is relatable to you too. So I thought to do a video about what each book is about summarized in one sentence. That way you can see if it perks your interest whether you want to read it or not. And to be honest, after finding out what some of the books are about, I actually am quite intrigued to read some of them. And if you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Katerina, it's lovely to see you here. And okay, let's get into it. Starting off at 100, we have Tree of Smoke by Denis Johnson. This is a novel set in the Vietnam War, and it's centered around a CIA operative who is involved in covert operations. The book portrays war's impact on soldiers, spies, and civilians, weaving a very complex narrative that examines the profound effects of conflict, the nature of belief, and the loss of innocence amidst the smoke of war's chaos. At number 99, we have How to Be Both by Ali Smith, and this is a book that's in two halves. One half follows a girl grieving her mother in modern England, and the other half follows an Italian Renaissance artist's ghost. And the idea is that you can read either of these halves in either order. Themes include art, history, gender, and the connections that transcend time, whilst challenging narrative conventions are explored. At number 98, we have Bel Canto by Ann Patchett, and this story loosely follows true events. It's a novel that starts off with a lavish birthday party at a vice president's house somewhere in South America, and it turns into a hostage crisis as terrorists besiege the house hoping to kidnap the president. As the standoff endures, both captors and captives form unexpected bonds united by their shared love of music. I did actually recently read this book, and it is a great story, and I can see why it is on the list, but I'm not quite sure about the very end of the book, like the final chapter. If you've read it, you know what I mean, but it's still a good read. At number 97, it's Men We Reaped by Jesmyn Ward, and this is a memoir that confronts the author's tragic loss of 5 young black men in her life, including her brother. She weaves her own personal narrative with the larger story of systematic racism and economic struggle within America, examining the impact of these forces within her community in Mississippi and the enduring consequences of grief and injustice. At number 96, we have Wayward Life's Beautiful Experiments by Saidiya Hartman. I just want to apologize in advance if I pronounce any of these authors' names wrong. I am so sorry. Here, the author explores the lives of black women at the turn of the 20th century in New York and Philadelphia. It delves into the revolutionary ways of how they define freedom through their intimate relationships, communal living, and resistance to societal norms, offering a reimagining of constraints and possibilities for black urban life in the face of pervasive racial oppression. At number 95, we have Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel, which is the second historical novel in the Thomas Cromwell trilogy, chronicling his rise to Tudor court. Here we focus on the downfall and execution of Anne Boleyn, one of Henry VIII's many wives, as Cromwell maneuvers his ways through political intrigue, betrayal, and the king's volatile desires. At 94 is On Beauty by Zadie Smith. This novel follows a family whose mixed-race Anglo-American dynamic becomes strained by infidelity, academic rivalry, and cultural clashes. Set in a fictional university town, it explores the complexities of family life, the politics of race and identity, and the nature of beauty in a contemporary society. At 93, we have Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is a post-apocalyptic novel where a flu pandemic wipes out the majority of humanity. Yes, you probably just had COVID flashbacks like I did. But in this book, we follow a travelling group of Shakespearean theatre actors, a famous actor's final performance, and the interconnected lives of the survivors. It explores themes of art, memory, and the enduring qualities of human culture, amidst the collapse and rebirth of civilization. At number 92, we have The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante. This is a visceral portrayal of a woman thrust into an existential crisis after her husband abruptly leaves her. Set in Italy, the novel delves into the protagonist's storm of rage, despair, and self-discovery as she confronts her shattered identity and navigates through the aftermath of the chaos after her marriage's dissolution. I have actually read this book and it is amazing, and I definitely agree it should be on this list. I would even go to say that I wish this book was listed as higher. I'm glad to see it on the list, but I genuinely think it should have been further up there than 92. At number 91, we have The Human Stain by Philip Roth. And this novel follows a classics professor in America in the 1990s who has to leave his job after he's been accused of racism. His secret past of passing off as white despite his African American heritage unravels as he becomes involved with a troubled younger woman. The book explores themes of identity, reputation, and the judgmental nature of society in the context of 20th century political correctness. At number 90, we have The Sympathizer by Viet, Thanh, Nguyen. This novel is about a half Vietnamese, half French communist spy during the final days of the Vietnam War and its aftermath. The protagonist is circled with South Vietnamese refugees in America, and they grapple with dual allegiances, a crisis of identity, and the contradictions of both American and Vietnamese cultures, all while they're reporting back to their communist officers. The novel is a unique exploration of war and loyalty. At number 89 is The Return by Hisham Matar. This is a memoir recounting the author's journey back to his native country of Libya in search for the truth about his father, who was abducted by the Gaddafi regime. It's a narrative of personal and national history, exploring themes of loss, memory, and the unyielding bonds between son and father who disappeared in the chaos of political tyranny. At number 88 is Collected Stories by Lydia Davis. This is a compilation of short stories that delve into the realities of everyday life, revealing the profound in the prosaic. It examines human nature, relationships, and the complexities of the mind. At number 87, we have Detransitioned Baby by Tori Peters, and it follows three people: a trans woman longing for motherhood, her ex-partner who has since detransitioned, and this ex's lover who is pregnant with a child. And this trio basically consider having this baby and forming a very unconventional family, which delve into themes of gender identity, parenthood, and the complexity of personal relationships, whilst offering a look at the lives of trans women in contemporary society. At number 86, we have Frederick Douglass by David W. Blight. This book basically chronicles Frederick Douglass's life from his birth into slavery and his escape to his rise as a leading voice in civil rights. The book showcases his public and personal personas, his intellectual journey, and his enduring impact on American history and racial justice. At number 85, we have Pastoralia, which I'm gonna guess is how you say that word. Probably butchering it, but we'll see. And this is by George Saunders. And this is a satire of a collection of short stories that are basically about contemporary American life. The tales blend dark humor and poignant observations, exploring themes of consumerism, corporate life, and the struggle to connect in a very disjointed society. At number 84, we have The Emperor of All My Ladies by Siddhartha Mukherjee, which this book is basically a biography of cancer, tracing its history from the ancient times to the modern era. The book provides a comprehensive look on the disease's cultural and scientific evolutions, and the battles to understand and treat it, along with personal stories of the patients and researchers. It's an exploration of cancer's past, present, and glimpse into the future. At number 83, we have When We Cease to Understand the World by Benjamin Labatut. This book is a blend of fact and fiction, and it explores the lives of brilliant scientists and thinkers, whose groundbreaking discoveries have pushed the boundaries of knowledge and ethics. The book delves into the dark side of genius, the chaos in the creative process, and the fine line between enlightenment and madness, questioning the impact of scientific advancements on humanity. At number 82 is Hurricane Season by Fernanda Melchor. This is a dark lyrical novel set in Mexico, revolving around the murder of a witch who is a feared and mystical figure in the community. And the story is told through perspectives of various characters, exposing the world of violence, poverty, and deep-rooted superstitions, revealing the brutal realities of the characters' lives and the societal decay that they navigate. At number 81, we have Pulphead by John Jeremiah Sullivan. This is a collection of non-fiction essays that delve into various aspects of American culture. It goes into an array of subjects, from pop music to reality TV to Christian rock bands, all told with an eye for detail and a sense of empathy. The essays combine the author's personal narrative with cultural analysis, showcasing the author's wit and his ability as a cultural observer. At number 80, we have The Story of the Lost Child by Elena Ferrante, which is the fourth and final book in her Neapolitan quartet. This book concludes the saga of two women's friendship set against the backdrop of a politically charged Italy. Here we follow their adult lives dealing with motherhood, professional ambitions, and romantic relationships. The novel culminates in the disappearance of one of the characters, echoing the themes of loss and transformation that define the whole series. At number 79, we have A Manual for Cleaning Women by Lucia Berlin. This is a short collection of stories that weaves together the gritty details of various people's lives. The stories are snapshots and moments filled with the stark realities of addiction, poverty, and complex human relationships, all delivered with compassion and observation of the human condition. At number 78, we have Septology by John Foss. This is a series of novels that delve into a life of an aging painter who lives in solitude in Norway. The narrative, full of introspection and minimalism, explores themes of faith, art, and the passage of time. And the meditative prose essentially reflects on the author's search for meaning and connection. At number 77, we have An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. This novel follows a middle-class African-American couple whose lives are torn apart when one partner is falsely convicted of a crime. The story examines the effects of incarceration on the relationship and also their families, exploring themes of love, loyalty, race, and justice within the contemporary social landscape of the United States. At number 76, we have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This novel follows two friends who are also video game designers as they navigate their complex relationship through their love of gaming. The novel spans over decades, exploring the duo's creative partnership, personal trials, and the evolving game industry. It's a story of friendship, collaboration, and the effects of storytelling in games on our personal lives. I read this book last year, and I am really glad to see it in this list because it was actually one of my favorite books of last year, and I think that it is really, really solid. I'm gonna actually drink some tea because I can actually feel my voice going. I'm gonna leave this on the bed and I'm just going to pray that I don't accidentally knock it over and scald my legs. At number 75, we have Exit West by Mohsin Hamid. This is a story of a young couple in an unnamed city swelling with refugees, and they're on the brink of a civil war. And they essentially find these mysterious doors that whisk them away to foreign lands, offering them a chance of escape. The story explores themes of migration, love, and a sense of belonging in a world where barriers are simultaneously being erected and crumbling down. At number 74, we have Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout. This is a collection of linked short stories focusing on a retired school teacher. This is a very abrasive and complex character, and the book basically delves into their various relationships with friends and family. And it explores themes of love, loss, aging, and just the human condition, all portrayed with empathy and psychological insight. At number 73, we have The Passage of Power by Robert Caro. I believe this is the fourth book in the Years of Lyndon Johnson series, and this basically recounts Johnson's years from 1958 to 1964. It basically details his struggle for presidency, his vice presidential years, and his sudden ascent to the Oval Office after the assassination of JF Kennedy. It explores the abuse of political power and Johnson's extraordinary impact on American politics. At number 72, we have Secondhand Time by Svetlana Alexievich, and this book basically recounts the aftermath of the Soviet Union's collapse. Told through personal accounts of ordinary civilians, we see the tumultuous period's impact on ordinary people, reflecting on the loss of a collective identity and the painful transition into a new Russia. It's a mosaic of voices grappling with change, memory, and survival. At number 71, we have The Copenhagen Trilogy by Tove Ditlevsen. I'm totally butchering all these names, and I can only apologize. And this is basically an autobiographical collection that chronicles her life in the earlier 20th century in Copenhagen. It explores the author's turbulent childhood, her rise to poet and author, and her struggles in love, motherhood, and addiction. The trilogy offers an intimate look at the challenges of artistic creation and the complexities of navigating societal expectations as a woman. My throat. At number 70, we have All Aunt Hager's Children by Edward P. Jones. This is a collection of short stories that delve into the lives of African Americans in Washington, D.C., spanning over the 20th century. The narrative reveals the struggles, triumphs, and the rich inner lives of these characters, which often were the descendants of rural migrants and from the first rural migration, as they seek to find their place in the great rural landscape. At number 69, we have The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. And here, the author basically goes into how the mass incarceration of African Americans and the subsequent denial of civil human rights through the criminal justice system has created a new racial caste system within the United States. The book examines on how laws and policies related to the war on drugs targets Black communities, perpetuating this cycle of marginalization akin to the Jim Crow era. At number 68, we have The Friend by Sigrid Nunez, which is basically a novel about a woman who inherits a Great Dane from her late friend, who was also a fellow writer who committed suicide. As she grieves, the novel basically explores themes in loss, friendship, and the human-canine bond. The book also delves into reflections of writing, the literary world, and the challenge of making sense of death. At number 67, we have Far From the Tree by Andrew Solomon. And this is a study of families where their children have physical, mental, and social differences from their parents. The book explores themes of identity, diversity, and acceptance, examining how families accommodate to children with these conditions, including dwarfism, Down syndrome, and being deaf, presenting a nuanced discussion on the meaning of parental love and the concept of identities. Just dropped a T. Tea just dripped on my leg and it pretty much scalded me, so that was cool. At number 66, we have We the Animals by Justin Torres. This is a coming-of-age novel narrated by the youngest son of a mixed-race couple in upstate New York. It depicts the intense love but also violence of his family life, as he and his two brothers navigate through their turbulent childhood, bound by loyalty but driven apart by their parents' volatile relationship, and their own emerging identities, culminating in the revelation of the narrator's own sexuality. At number 65, we have The Plot Against America by Philip Roth. This is an alternate history novel where Charles Lindbergh defeats Roosevelt in the 1940 presidential election, which ultimately leads the United States into fascism and widespread anti-Semitism. And the story is told through the eyes of a young Jewish boy, as his family experiences the growing threat in American democracy and their own sense of security and safety. At number 64, we have The Great Believers by Rebecca Mackay. This is a novel that follows two narratives, one following a group of friends in Chicago in the 1980s in the AIDS epidemic, and the other tracking a mother searching for her estranged daughter in 2015 Paris. It explores themes of loss, friendship, art, and the enduring impact of the past on the present. At number 63, we have Veronica by Mary Gateskill. This is a novel about a former model whose life has basically faded into a grim reality of menial jobs and the constant pain of chronic illness. And she's friends with a woman who contracts HIV, and it then forces this former model to examine her own past, her superficiality, and her own mortality. The novel is a raw exploration into beauty, aging, and the nature of compassion. At number 62, we have 10:04 by Ben Lerner. This novel follows a writer in New York who is grappling with the success of his first book, but also dealing with his potential medical diagnosis. And set against the backdrop of Hurricane Sandy and the Occupy movement, the story blurs the lines of art and life, exploring themes in time, creation, and the uncertain future of the city and life itself. At number 61, we have Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. This novel is set in Appalachian Mountains, and it follows a boy who was born from a single teenage mother in a trailer park. And the narrative depicts this boy's struggle with poverty, addiction, and the foster care system, painting a very vivid picture of the contemporary rural America amidst the opioid crisis. At number 60, we have Heavy by Kisa Lehman, and this is a memoir that confronts the complexities of weight, identity, and family in America. The author recounts his experiences growing up as a black man in the South, dealing with issues of body image, abuse, and addiction. His narrative is a candid exploration into the personal and societal burdens, and the difficult journey to self-understanding and healing. At number 59, we have Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides, and this is a story of a hermaphrodite of Greek descent raised as a girl in Detroit, and the narrative spans their family history from Asia to the 20th century America, exploring themes of identity, gender, and the immigrant experience, as the main character discovers their true sense of self and the genetic secret that defines them. At number 58, we have Stay True by Hua Su, and this is a memoir that recounts his college years and the bond he formed with a very close friend whose life was very tragically cut short. And the book navigates the complexities of their interracial friendship in the backdrop of 1990s America, where the author explores how this relationship shaped his own sense of identity and just the world in general around him. At number 57, we have Nickel and Dimed by Barbara A. Reinrich. I think that's how you say that. And this is basically an investigative memoir that explores the struggle of low-wage workers in America. And the author basically goes undercover and works various low-paid jobs and exposes the harsh realities of poverty, the realities of living on such a low income, and the systemic barriers of keeping people from rising above the poverty line, therefore challenging the myth of the American dream. At number 56, we have The Flamethrowers by Rachel Kushner. This is a novel set in the 1970s following a young artist and a motorcycle enthusiast, and she navigates the New York art scene and the radical political movements in Italy. The book captures the era's spirits through their relationships and experiences, exploring themes in speed, creation, and destruction, whilst reflecting on the roles of women in a male-dominated world. At number 55, we have The Looming Tower by Lawrence Wright. And this is an account of the rise of Islamic extremism and the events leading up to 9/11. The book traces the origins of Al-Qaeda and its leaders, and it examines how rivalries formed within the US intelligence community may have inadvertently set the stage for the tragedy that happened on 9/11. At number 54, we have 10th of December by George Saunders, and this is a collection of stories that combine dark humour with deep empathy, exploring themes of consumerism, class disparity, and the search of meaning within the absurdity of modern life. The characters, often facing moral dilemmas, are drawn with compassion and complexity to show the beauty in the grotesque. At number 53, we have Runaway by Alice Munro. This is a collection of short stories that delve into the intricate lives of women dealing with pivotal moments, often involving escape or a desire to flee from their current circumstances. The narrative explores the complexities in human relationships, the subtleties of change, and the unexpected paths that life can take, all with psychological depth and uncompromising insight. At number 52, we have Train Dreams by Denis Johnson. This is a novella that chronicles the life of a day labourer in the American West during the 20th century. It captures the main character's experience with loss, isolation, and the transformative nature of the American landscape, set against the backdrop of a rapidly changing country. The narrative is a lyrical meditation on the human connection to land and time. At number 51, we have Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. And in this story, we follow a woman who was born in 1910 and dies and is basically reborn multiple times. And she basically lives through events in the 20th century in various ways. And each life explores different paths and outcomes, from the mundane to the historical. And as the main character navigates through the tumultuous events of this era, including both world wars, she examines themes of fate, history, and rebirth. Okay, we're officially halfway. At number 50, we have Trust by Hernan Diaz. This is a novel that deconstructs the life of a wealthy financier through multiple narratives and perspectives. Set in the early 20th century in New York, it challenges the reader's understanding of truth and fiction, weaving together the author's reclusive novel, memoirs, diary entries, and an unpublished autobiography. At number 49, we have The Vegetarian by Han Kang. This is a South Korean novel about a woman who abruptly decides to stop eating meat, which seems to trigger a lot of alarming changes in her relationships, as this choice is met with hostility and incomprehension by her family, leading to the disturbing exploration of societal norms, personal autonomy, and the boundaries of the human psyche. I have actually read this book. I read it a couple of years ago, and it is good, but I am kind of surprised to see it on this list. I don't know, like, it was good, but it wasn't like amazing. Like, it didn't absolutely blow me away. I feel like there's loads of other South Korean novels that I feel like should have been on this list, but who knows. At number 48, we have Persepolis by Mjani Satrapi. Probably wrong, but moving on. This is a graphic memoir of the author depicting her childhood in Iran during the Islamic Revolution. She shares her experience in war, political upheaval, and her struggle for identity as she grows up in a society that goes through a lot of changes. This book is a poignant exploration of culture, revolution, and the resilience of the human spirit. At number 47, we have A Mercy by Toni Morrison. This novel is set in the late 17th century in America, exploring the roots of slavery and racism. We follow a diverse group of characters on a farm in colonial New York, including an Anglo-Dutch trader, his wife, and their slaves. It delves into themes of freedom, bondage, and the complexities of mercy in a world where power imbalances are stark. At number 46, we have The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. This novel follows a boy who survives a terrorist bombing at a New York art museum, and in the chaos he steals a very famous painting known as the Goldfinch, which throughout the novel becomes a talisman for his grief and guilt. The story follows his life into adulthood, entwined in the underworld of art, his relenting loss, and the search for identity and meaning. If you know me, I'm the biggest Donna Tartt fan, and I am so pleased to see this book on the list. I think she's just such an incredible and unique author that no one else is really like her, and I definitely think that she's one of the best authors of this century, and I would definitely recommend anyone to read this book. At number 45, we have The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. This is a memoir that explores the fluidity in gender, identity, and the complexities of building a family. The author intertwines philosophical musings with her personal narratives of her relationship with a gender-fluid artist. The book challenges conventional narratives of motherhood and marriage, and the binaries that define our understanding of sexuality. At number 44, we have the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, and this is the first book in the Broken Earth trilogy. And it's set in a world where catastrophic climate events threaten civilization. And it basically follows 3 women who are able to control the Earth's seismic activity. And the book weaves their stories together, and it ultimately explores themes of oppression, survival, and the complex relationships between humans and the planet and a society that's on the brink of collapse. At number 43, we have Post-War by Tony Judt. And this book is basically a comprehensive history of Europe from the end of the World War II in 1945 to the early 21st century. The book examines the political, social, and economic reconstruction of the continent, the division during the Cold War, the fall of communism, and the challenges of integration and identity during a rapidly changing Europe, offering a detailed analysis on the post-war period. At number 42, we have A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James. This novel basically delves into the attempted assassination of Bob Marley in Jamaica in 1976 and its aftermath. The narrative spans over several decades, and the story is told through a multitude of voices, including gang members, journalists, and CIA agents. It explores the turbulent political climate of Jamaica, the impact of the drug trade, and the far-reaching consequences of violence. At number 41, we have Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. This is a novella set in the 1980s Ireland, and the story basically follows a coal merchant during the lead up to Christmas. The main character, who was raised by a single mother, confronts a moral dilemma when he discovers a young girl locked up in a Covenant's coal shed. And here it basically reveals the dark reality of Catholic institutions and the societal complicity in their operations. I have read this book, and it is utterly fantastic, given that its size is quite small, although we do not judge size here. Plus, this is also going to be made into a film starring Cillian Murphy, so you know it's going to be good. At 40, we have H is for Hawk by Helen Macdonald. This is a memoir recounting the author's experience of training a hawk whilst grieving the sudden death of her father. And the book is basically a profound exploration of the bond between human and hawk, and it's a meditation on loss, nature, and the challenges of taming wild things. At number 39, we have A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan. This is a novel that's constructed from a series of interconnected stories that revolve around the lives of a music executive and their assistant. The narrative jumps through various times and perspectives, and explores the characters' pasts and futures, with themes of change and time's impacts on their lives, careers, and relationships within the music industry. At 38, we have The Savage Detectives by Roberta Bolano. And in this book, we follow a group of young rebellious poets in Mexico City, otherwise known as the visceral realists in the 1970s. The novel is structured as a series of first-person narratives from characters, intersecting with the lives of the group's charismatic leaders. It's a sprawling tale for the quest of literary and personal revolution, spanning over continents and decades. At 37, we have The Years by Annie Ernaux. This is an autobiographical memoir where the author chronicles the post-war decades in France through the lens of her own life. The author captures the changing times, the societal shifts, and the evolving cultural landscapes, reflecting on the nature of memory and also of self. The book is a meditation of the passage of time and also the construction of identity. At 36, we have Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This book was basically written by the author as a sort of letter to his son, where he sort of goes through the harsh realities of being black in America. The author delves into his own experiences and the history of systemic racism, addressing the fear and vulnerability that comes with inhabiting a black body. The book is a powerful reflection on identity, oppression, and the ongoing struggle for racial justice. At number 35, we have Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. This is a memoir that explores the complex relationship she had with her father, who was a funeral home director but also a high school English teacher who led a very secretive personal life. The narrative delves into themes of family dynamics, sexuality, identity, as well as her own father's closeted homosexuality and probable fate, set against the backdrop of literature and the family business. At number 34, we have Citizen by Claudia Rankine. This is a book blending poetry, essays, and imagery to examine the everyday harsh realities of racism and microaggressions faced by Black people in America. And the narrative captures the emotional as well as the physical impact of these experiences, ultimately questioning the concept of citizenship and the societal divisions that basically challenge the notion of a collective national identity. At number 33, we have Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward. This is a novel set in Mississippi leading up to the days of Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina, more like Hurricane Tortilla.
Hurricane Katrina! More like Hurricane Tortilla.
And we follow a family that navigates poverty and personal challenges. And the story combines the brutal reality of the family's struggle for survival with rich mythic elements, drawing parallels from the tale of Medea and exploring themes of resilience within familial bonds. At number 32, we have The Line of Beauty by Alan Hollinghurst. And this novel is set in 1980s England during the rise of Thatcherism. And we follow a young gay man who basically befriends someone at university, and he becomes very intertwined with their rich conservative family. The book explores themes of class, politics, and sexuality as the main character navigates through love, art, and the AIDS epidemic against the backdrop of social change and hypocrisy. At number 31, we have White Teeth by Zadie Smith. And this is a novel set in London, and it follows two families over multiple generations. And the narrative weaves together the lives of these interconnected families, with roots from Jamaica, Bangladesh, and England, exploring themes of cultural identity, immigration, colonialism, and the complex nature of modern British life, all against the backdrop of genetic research and a rapidly changing society. At number 30, we have Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. This is a novel about a multiracial family in Mississippi, and it focuses on a young boy who embarks on a road trip with his drug-addicted mother to pick up his white father from prison. The story delves into the legacy of trauma, the ghostly presence of past injustices, and the bonds of family set against the backdrop of enduring racial tensions. At number 29, we have The Last Samurai by Helen Jewett. This story follows a child raised by a single mother who uses the film Seven Samurais as a teaching tool. The boy embarks on a quest for knowledge and his absent father's identity, therefore learning multiple languages and seeking out various father figures along the way. The novel explores themes of intellect, education, and the search for parental guidance and approval. At number 28, we have Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. This is a novel comprising of 6 interconnected stories that span centuries and genres, from the 19th century to the post-apocalyptic future. Each narrative delves into themes of pregnancy, reincarnation, and the impacts of actions through time. The stories are very much nestled into each other, which kind of reflects the cyclical nature of history and human experience. At number 27, we have Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Maybe that's right. This is a book about a Nigerian woman who emigrates to the US for university, but her high school sweetheart goes down a different path by moving to the UK. The book explores their experiences with race and identity and the immigrant experience of moving to the West, as well as the pull of going back to their homeland, culminating in the eventual reunion of a changed Nigeria. At number 26, we have Atonement by Ian McEwan. This novel is set in 1930s England, and it follows a teenage girl who falsely accuses her sister's lover of a crime that he didn't commit, therefore altering their lives forever. The novel explores themes of guilt, forgiveness, and the act of writing, as the main character seeks redemption through her childhood mistake through the years, especially during World War II. Woo, we're in the last quarter. We can do this. At number 25, we have Random Family by Adrienne Nicole LeBlanc. This is a non-fiction book chronicling the lives of 2 young women that live in the Bronx from the 1980s to the 2000s. The narrative delves into their relationships, as well as challenges of poverty, crime, and the criminal justice system, as well as the joys and hardships of raising children in an inner city environment marked by adversity. At 24, we have The Overstory by Richard Powers. This is a novel that weaves together the stories of 9 diverse characters, each one with a unique connection to trees, and all their individual tales converge when they all become in environmental activism to save Asian forests. The book explores the intricate relationships between humans and the natural world, the wonder of trees, and the impact of humanity's actions on the environment. At number 23, we have Hate Ship, Friendship, Courtship, Loveship, Marriage by Alice Munro. This is a collection of short stories where the author basically delves into the complexity of human relationships. The stories focus on love, loss, and the pivotal moments that change our lives. The characters often confront change and the passage of time, revealing the depth and intricacy in ordinary lives through nuance and empathetic storytelling. At number 22, we have Behind the Beautiful Forevers by Catherine Boo. This is a non-fiction book that explores the lives of residents that live in a makeshift slum by Mumbai Airport. The author spent several years documenting the lives of these residents, including their struggles with poverty, corruption, and the hope for a better life, providing a vivid portrayal of the challenges faced by the urban underclass in the globalized world. At number 21, we have Evicted by Matthew Desmond. This is another non-fiction book that explores the issue of the housing crisis crisis within the United States. Through the stories of 8 families, the author shows the cycle of eviction and its profound effects on the urban poor, highlighting how the lack of affordable housing in America just perpetuates the cycle of poverty and inequality in America. At number 20, we have Erasure by Percival Everett. This is a satirical novel about an African-American writer frustrated with the publishing industry's request for authentic Black narratives. And when his latest manuscript is rejected, he deliberately writes a stereotypical novel under a pseudonym, and it becomes a huge success. This novel explores issues of class and the publishing industry. At number 19, we have Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe. This book investigates the complexities of the Troubles, which is a violent conflict in Northern Ireland. And the book specifically focuses on the 1972 disappearance of Jean McConville, examining the broader context of conflict through personal stories, political intrigue, and the moral ambiguities faced by individuals on both sides of the struggle. At number 18, we have Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. This novel is set during the American Civil War, and it's centered on President Lincoln's grief after the death of his son. And the story unfolds in Bardo, which is a Tibetan concept of the transitional afterlife, where his son's spirit encounters a whole other group of ghostly characters. The book is a meditation on death, grief, and the power of empathy. At number 17, we have The Sellout by Paul Beatty. This is a satirical novel that follows an African-American protagonist who attempts to reinstate slavery and segregate his local high school. And of course, these outrageous actions lead to a Supreme Court case. The novel tackles complex issues of race, social injustice, and identity in contemporary America. At number 16, we have The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. This is a novel about 2 Jewish cousins in New York City in the 1930s, where one is an escape artist in Nazi-occupied Prague, and the other is a Brooklyn native. And they basically team up to create comic book heroes. The story explores themes of escapism, Jewish identity, the golden age of comics, and the impact of World War II on American society. At number 15, we have Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This is a multi-generational saga following a Korean family from the early 20th century to the 1980s. Beginning in a Japanese-occupied Korea, the story then moves to Japan, where the family faces discrimination and hardship as immigrants. The novel explores themes of identity, survival, and the enduring impact of history on the individual lives, all centered around the game of Pachinko as a metaphor for fate. At number 14, we have Outline by Rachel Cusk. This novel follows a writer that goes to Athens to teach a writing course. And through a series of conversations with acquaintances and strangers, the main character's own story is indirectly revealed. The novel is characterized by its unique structure, focusing on the narratives of others as a means of exploring themes of identity, storytelling, and the human experience. At number 13, we have The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This is a post-apocalyptic novel that follows a father and his young son as they journey through a desolate America, which seems to have been scorched by an unspecified disaster. The story captures the struggle to survive in a world that is devoid of hope and life, facing starvation, cannibals, and the remnants of humanity. It is a profound meditation on love, despair, and the will to live. At number 12, we have The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. This is a memoir by the author where she recounts her grief of the sudden death of her husband along with the critical illness of her daughter. She explores the process of mourning and memory, along with the magical thinking that arises in the face of loss, with her sharp observation and her clarity in prose. At number 11, we have The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Janot Diaz. This is a novel that chronicles the life of an overweight Dominican-American nerd who is obsessed with science fiction and fantasy, who dreams of becoming a writer and finding love. The narrative also delves into the troubled history of the Dominican Republic under dictatorship, exploring themes of fate, identity, and the curse that follows his family. Okay, we're in the final 10. We can do this. Okay, let's go. At number 10, we have Gilead by Marilyn Robinson. Is it Gilead or Gilead? Gilead. This novel is presented as a letter from an elderly dying preacher to his young son in 1950s Iowa. The preacher reflects on his life, his forebearers, his vocation, sharing his wisdom and his family history. The narrative grapples with themes of faith, redemption, and the beauty in the everyday, as he seeks to leave his legacy and understanding for his son. At number 9, we have Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a dystopian novel set in in alternate England, where we follow a young girl who attends a strange boarding school along with her two best friends. However, as the trio become adults, they discover the shocking true meaning of the reason of their existence. The novel explores themes of memory, loss, and what it truly means to be human. I have read this book and it's honestly one of my favorite books ever, so I am really happy to see this in the top 10 because I think this book is incredible. At number 8, we have Austerlitz by W.G. Sebald. This novel is about an architectural historian who discovers he was a child refugee in Nazi-occupied Prague, and he was sent to Britain on the Kindertransport. And as the main character uncovers his past, he deals with trauma, identity, and memory. The narrative, interspersed with photographs, meditates on the nature of history, architecture, and the enduring impact of the Holocaust. At number 7, we have The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. This book is a reimagining of the historical Underground Railroad as a literal subterranean train network that helps slaves escape the South. The novel follows a young slave from a plantation as she seeks freedom, facing the relentless pursuit of her slave catcher. It's a harrowing tale of courage and resilience, exploring the brutal realities of American slavery and the quest for liberty. At number 6, we have 2666, or 2666, by Roberto Bellano. This novel is comprised of 5 interconnected parts, spanning over multiple continents and time periods, weaving together a vast array of characters and narratives. Central themes include unsolved and horrific homicides in a fictional Mexican city, the elusive German writer, and the dark undercurrents of the 20th century. For number 5, we have The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen. This novel is about a dysfunctional family grappling with the complexities of modern life. As the parents face aging and illness, their 3 adult children confront their personal failures and dissatisfaction. The novel explores themes of family dynamics, the pursuit of happiness, and capitalism, set against the backdrop of an American cultural and economic landscape. At number 4, we have The Known World by Edward P. Jones. This is a historical novel set in Virginia that follows a black man who becomes a slave owner after he gains his freedom. The narrative delves into the complexities of slavery and the moral contradictions, examining the lives of slaves, slave owners, and free people, and the intricate social hierarchy of that time. For number 3, we have Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. This is a historical novel that reimagines the rise of Thomas Cromwell in Henry VIII's court. It chronicles Cromwell's ascent from a humble blacksmith's son to the king's chief minister, as he navigates the treacherous politics of the Tudor court. The novel delves into his role in the divorce of Catherine of Aragon and marriage to Anne Boleyn amidst the English Reformation. At number 2, it's The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. This is a historical study of the Great Migration, which was the movement of over 6 million African Americans from the southern US to the north and west between 1915 and 1970, and it's told through the narratives of 3 individuals. The author showcases the migration's impact on American culture, race relations, and the lives of those who have moved. And finally, the book that has the number 1 spot is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. This is the very first book in the Neapolitan novel series, which again is a rich tale following 2 girls growing up in a poor but vibrant neighborhood in post-war Italy. The novel explores their intense and complicated relationship as they navigate through the struggles of adolescence, as well as the social dynamics of community, against the backdrop of political upheaval and societal change. I am so happy to see this book at number 1 because this is honestly one of my favorite books of all time, and I think it's very much justly deserved in this place because it is just honestly fantastic, and I would genuinely recommend anyone to read this book. And those are all the books on the New York Times list 100 best books of the 21st century. What did you think of this list? I personally prefer the Reader's Choice list, which I will link down below, which I think just has more impactful books that more people have read. I do have a lot of mixed feelings about this list. I do think that it is very Western centric because I honestly feel like it doesn't have much variety from other countries. It really just seems to focus on America and just like the West in general. And I also got quite annoyed by seeing quite a long list of authors having multiple books here. Like, I really think that this list should only have like 1 book per author because yes, there are some authors that are good, but I don't think that 2 or 3 of their books should be in one list. I very much prefer the Reader's Choice one. I think if you look through it, you'll definitely agree. I don't know, this list just seems a little bit pretentious and not really up my street. That being said, What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts. If you like this video, please give it a like down below. This took me forever to put together, so I would really appreciate your love on this one. And if you're new here, please subscribe. I make new videos every single Tuesday, and it'd be lovely to see you there. Feel free to also follow me on my Instagram. I post all more personal stuff on there, but I also post about books as soon as I finish reading them, so you can see what they're about and also what I've rated them out of 10. And also feel free to follow me on my Goodreads. I've recently made an account because everyone was asking me to, so it's still a work in progress, but I'd love to see your love there too. And that's it from me. I'm gonna have a cup of tea and lie down because this was a very long video to make. But thank you so much for watching. I love you so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.